We've seen to this point how we can make members private if things should not be using them. Turns out that Scala gives us a bit more control than this. There's also another visibility that we'll talk about in the following playlists called protected. But even with private, we have some control over things. And in fact, given the code that we've written, we should probably use some of this. So in addition to saying it's private, we can put brackets and modify what it is private to. So you can make it private to any bounding scope. Now what does that mean? Well, in the case of our mutable 2D vector, it's inside of a package called OODetails. Now if I said private OODetails, that would mean that X could be seen by anything inside of the same package. So vect2d could actually modify the variable underscore x. We really don't want that, but there are situations where this is useful. If you have a background in Java, it turns out the default visibility in Java, if you don't put anything, so whereas in Scala, if you don't put anything, it's public. In Java, if you don't put anything, it's something called package private, which is exactly what this is. It means that it's private, but it can be seen in the whole package that it's in. Scala gives you even more control in that you can specify any enclosing scope. So it could be the package it's in, it could be two packages up, for example, if the packages were nested, like with our basics bank. It could also be if you have a class inside of another class, or a class inside of an object, if things are nested, you could specify those enclosing scopes there. There's one other, and this is the one that's actually useful to us. And this is the most restrictive. So when I make it OODetails, this is making it less restrictive. This is saying, yes, it's private, but it's kind of public inside of this package. I can also say private this. Now, what does that do, and how does that make this more restrictive? To understand that, let's make a little change in the code. So instead of saying mv.x, because when I say mv.x, it's actually using this method here. The way the code is written right now, I can actually access the underscore x of mv, which means that technically this plus equals, because I passed it a mutable vect2d, this could alter the other mutable vector. I could change it as well. Watch what happens if I make it private this. Now that's an error. If I do the same thing to the underscore y, private this is basically, it's not only private to the current class, it's private to the current instance of the class, so that the only thing that can touch it is the instance that contains it. Other instances can't alter it. For the mutable vector, this is probably a good idea. We probably don't want one vector altering another, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if it did. But for the bank account, okay, our bank account here right now, technically one account can alter the balance of another account. That's really not something we want to allow. So the use of the visibility private this on the balance is really a good idea, and that it makes the code more safe. As you can tell, that didn't introduce any errors, so what we had written before, we weren't having an account modify any other accounts, because once again, that would be a bad idea. All the adding private this does is it prevents that from happening. So we can't accidentally have one bank account alter the balance of another bank account. The only thing that can alter this account's balance is this account.